So today we're going to be showing you the HandySCAN MAX and how we can use it to 3D scan rooms. So behind me I've created a few kind of core flute pillars that we can use to just target. And the idea behind this is just to avoid targeting the walls of the room because maybe you want to scan multiple rooms very, very quickly. So we're just showing you a concept of how we can capture this area of the walls using these pillars. So first what we need to do is jump into a new scan. And for this scan I'm going to use far mode, a resolution of 12 millimeters, and a high smart resolution. So by setting it to high, we can basically break down the scan into three resolutions: 4 mil, 8 mil, and 12 mil. So everything else is ready to go, so we just hit start scanning. And the best thing to do is first just grab a scale bar, because these scale bars help to give your scene or your room scale. So I'm just capturing that from multiple angles. And once it goes green, then I know that I've got a good kind of like foundation to begin my 3D scan from. So it hasn't quite gone green yet, and there it goes, it just went green. So then I can transition up my pillar, and you can see it's already starting to overspray to the wall in the background. So you just got to get the distance right to be able to scan in behind these boxes. If you've got an area that you want to capture in high detail or resolution, just put a few extra targets there. It might be like a shelf or an insert, and then we can right click and flick into high resolution mode and capture that area in higher detail. So it's only a couple of extra targets just for areas that are needing attention or extra detail. Once you're done, right click and disable that, and then you're right back into far mode. And you see there we've got some kind of like gold and green, gold and blue I should say. So even though it's gold, it doesn't mean that we haven't got any data, it just means that we haven't reached the maximum smart resolution that we had set. So the data is still good is essentially what I'm saying. So now what I'm going to do is just try and zoom in a bit, just so I can get in that corner there, because I'm just wanting to capture this rear wall essentially, and then underneath and up onto the roof. So this table's in the way a little bit for me, but usually when you're in an open space you wouldn't have that issue. So the overspray of the HandySCAN MAX is just amazing. We can go up even higher and grab details far, far away, and then come over to here and jump in here and grab, you know, some other additional details like the PowerPoints here. So again, if you wanted some of these areas in higher res, you would just go ahead and put a few extra targets in those areas to get more detail. So if I pause, I can come around here, and I can go in here and get the rear wall a bit better as well. Okay, so I'm quite happy with what I've got. So I'm going to stop my scan now, and you can see we've got some good data here. I can now go in and choose the Connect Select tool and just select what I want to keep. So I'm going to hit Control click, and maybe I want to grab that, and then just select Keep Only Selection. Just for the sake of the video, we could remove these boxes. So with the lasso and select through, I'm just going to go and select around those, just because they don't really need to be in there and we don't want to obstruct our view. And we have a nice clipping plane display as well, in case you can't see what you're trying to select. Once you've done that, you can then hit delete. and I must have clipped away too far, so the clipping plane didn't necessarily delete what was clipped, so we can delete that as well. So you can see here that the targets are still there in 3D space, which is good. You know, they help give your 3D model scale. And we can now finalize the data. So by finalizing the data, you'll actually generate the final STL file. And this is much nicer and cleaner to work with than a point cloud, because you can see all the surface information, and it's just easier to snap to and pick on. And if you're in a rush and you just need to scan multiple rooms, you can just save the session straight after scanning and do this process once you're back in the office. So you don't have to finalize straight away, for example. So now that I've got that there, what I'm going to do is send that over to our scan-to-cad module, which comes with either option of the HandySCAN MAX. And I was just mucking around before, so I'm just going to delete that sketch. Cool. So I've got that there now. What we're going to do next is just grab the selection tool again, connect select, and again, just all I'm really after is that rear wall, so I'm not actually after anything else. I'm going to now click on keep only. And that's perfect because I'm after around the window and just this rear wall surface area. So now what I'm going to do is create an alignment. So I'm going to click on Quick Entities. And Quick Entities is really cool because it helps you just determine what's actually a plane and what's not. So if I click on that, I've got a plane, click there, plane, plane. So I can use these entities to generate my alignment now. Go to my alignment tool, plane XY will be plane 1. And if we just turn that around so we can just figure out where our orientation is. Yep. Sorry, plane 2 is my XY. Then I want plane 1 to be YZ and plane 3 to be XZ. So it just gives my model a coordinate system, so that when I look at it in a 2D elevation, for example, it's now aligned and square. Next, I can just turn off my entities that I don't need to use or want, and now I can start to design or sketch out an area or a platform. So coming over to this area here where we scanned in higher resolution, you can see that the skirting's in much better detail. So even if you had a few targets in each corner just to get the perimeter details, that could do the job, because all we're after is just wall surfaces. And if we just show you the display of the wireframe, you can see that high res mode is a lot smaller triangles. So now what we're going to do is create a sketch over top of our scan. So with the Scan-to-CAD Pro, again, which comes with the HandySCAN MAX, we can choose our start plane, and that was plane 2, no, plane 1. We could then bring out this cross section, maybe 5 millimeters, and we're just after, you know, all the kind of areas of interest around the window, around these PowerPoints, and then we can confirm. And that creates a polyline that we can snap to. So if I was to get the line tool, then grab the selection, freeform selection, I can then just drag over top of that line and it creates a line. Again, this line, and just fits the perfect line to that. There is also like a paintbrush tool as well. So if I switch to paintbrush and then hold control and drag along that, it will do the same job. And for this here, I can come up and around, grab that, grab these as well, and grab that. We don't actually probably need that one because we could probably go straight through. So we'll just undo that last one. So next we get the corner trim, and we can just trim these sketches together. And you'll see once we've got a complete sketch, it will go and fill itself in, which is great because I now know that I can extrude it if I was planning to extrude it. And now what I'm going to do is just fix these lines. And by fixing them, then I can just drag the endpoints without changing the angles of the line. You can put also dimensions on your sketches. So if you want to constrain, let's say, the angle between each sketch, you can definitely do that as well. So for example, if I click on the smart dimension, bring that down, 3520, you could actually type in 3520 and just round that number so that it's a bit more easier to work with in CAD. So let's accept that sketch. And that sketch can be live transferred to SolidWorks, for example. So I could right click and transfer that, and it will directly launch SolidWorks, give you basically just the perimeter of your wall, and then you can do further design, like maybe it's tiling design, or you're just trying to work out where you would like to put a kitchen bench to fit within that space. And here's the sketch, and that sketch is still editable. So everything you send over from scan-to-cad Pro is still an editable sketch. So it's parametric. If you didn't have if you didn't have SolidWorks, you can actually just export to IGES or step cross sections. So, sketches you can export to IGES or step. Okay, so let's say I want to extrude that sketch. I can then click on that and extrude it 10 millimeters or as big as I would like. And now I've got a 3D surface that's cut perfectly around my object. And again, I can transfer that to SolidWorks with all the parametric history in case I never needed to edit this further. So just to show you the parametrics in here, if I right click and edit the sketch, change my view around, maybe I don't want that gap in there. I could just delete this line here, delete this line, do a corner trim. Let's now fix the sketch, accept the sketch, and now it just cuts the biggest slot right through. So just an idea of how you can parametrically edit whatever you design in Scan-to-CAD Pro. So hopefully this gives you an idea of like how you can maybe speed up your targeting process with the HandySCAN MAX and quickly work out surface areas. Thanks for watching.